In one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Radical Independent. My name is Dave. We got one of our favorite special guests on the show today who's been breaking down all of the mischief of the, I was going to say the New World Order, but we'll just call it the World Health Organization and all of their subsidiaries. And he's done great work recently. He's been on so many different shows. Please, everybody, let's welcome back James Roguski. How are you, James?
I'm doing great. And, Dave, you were one of the first to talk about this with me months ago. And the word that seems to be most common with what the WHO is up to is shenanigans. And so we'll bring you up to date on the shenanigans because they're doing it again.
Yeah, nice.
So unbeknownst to most people around the world, there are delegates to the WHO from all of the 194 member nations. And the vast majority of people don't give that any attention. They don't know that people are going to these meetings and speaking on your behalf for your country. And now the shenanigans that they're up to is they are actively negotiating along two parallel tracks to essentially give away sovereignty and give more legal authority and power to the WHO. And pretty much it seems all I do is read boring documents that these organizations put out until I find something that makes me go, hey, wait a minute, that's a little bit important. Maybe we should try to shine some light on that. Okay. And so, quite frankly, nobody has ever yet called me a conspiracy theorist because I'm just a conspiracy illuminator. Okay. Yeah. Not that I'm part of the Illuminati, but I am shedding light on what they are doing. And so, did you know? Now, you may have. Okay.
I might.
Were you aware that your delegates, your nation, the United States delegates to the WHO are busy negotiating to give away your national and personal sovereignty? Was that on your to-do list today to, pay attention to that?
It's something I didn't put on the list, James, but that's why you're here, because you're gonna okay. you're gonna illuminate us here.
Okay, so hopefully you'll be able to see my screen here, and essentially all this information is available on stopthewho.com, and that's just an article that I'm about to publish. At the point that we're doing this recording, it's in draft form, and I hope to publish it soon after we get done with this video. And so the WHO is moving along two separate tracks. They're parallel tracks, they're interrelated. And because I've read their documents, I can see what's up around the bend, around the corner that, seems to be invisible. But, they've let us know what they're doing. It's just that you don't hear about that on the mainstream news. And so they are currently negotiating what they call a convention, agreement, or other international instrument, but most everybody else refers to as the pandemic treaty. Mm-hmm. Now, there was a lot of talk about that a few months ago when you and I were talking about track 2. We were talking about amendments to international health regulations, which they tried but failed to get through in May of this year, 2022. And when we talked about that, I kept telling people, no, this isn't the pandemic treaty. Talk to me about that later on in the year. What we were talking about were amendments to regulations, and the whole, both alternative and mainstream media kept talking about the pandemic treaty. And it was driving me nuts because it didn't even exist, right? Mm-hmm. On July 13th, the WHO finally got around to publishing their first working draft of what most people call the pandemic treaty. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they're also coming back again, even more secretively, proposing amendments to an existing international agreement, which are the international health regulations. So, now it's a double track, double barrel shotgun, dealing with two things at the same time. And so this, I think I need to make a little bit bigger. There's a couple of dates that are important for people to be aware of. And so they're very parallel tracks. You can see that the pandemic treaty, they have given instructions to your delegates from whatever country you may reside in, that each nation is supposed to submit proposals for the language that they would like to have included in the treaty by September 5th. If we go over to the other side here on the international health regulations, member nations are submitting proposals by September 30th. Okay. Now, these are going along very parallel, similar, but different. For the pandemic treaty, they're having regional meetings, Africa, Asia, Europe, Americas, and so forth, beginning in August and going all the way to October, right? They're having some informal, focused conversations, which I'm certain are going to be private. And I'm not going to get invited to. No. Maybe you're going to be invited.
Maybe.
Let me know what happens. Okay. They say they're going to have a public comment period on September 29th and 30th. Well, they did that in April. They gave us about 5 days notice. And this time there's been rumblings that they're going to have a list of, they basically have interested parties, like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and so forth, they're referred to as relevant stakeholders. And after I got to speak in April to their meeting, I got an email that said I was a relevant stakeholder. And so that was wonderful. And a few other people that I know. But this time around, I think they're calling that list a little bit, and I'm pretty darn sure I'm not going to be on that list, and no regular people are going to be on that list. Okay. And so they might accept a written statement for maybe 200 words that people could submit. But what they did back in April is they completely hid all of those statements. And I got to give them credit. They did say that they received 36,000 comments. Wow. But the majority of them said, we don't want you to negotiate a pandemic treaty. We don't want to give you more power. And so they quickly canceled their scheduled June public comment. They never published any of the comments. They said they would, but they never did. And so this is all heading towards meetings where the third meeting of the negotiations for the pandemic treaty is headed for December 5th and 7th, 5, 6, and 7. Yeah. And the meeting for the amendments is a little more vague. They say it's going to be prior to November 15th, but they haven't actually picked a date. And so pretty much what, I'm hoping to do, here's the schedule a little bit bigger. Yeah. What I'm hoping to do is, well, I didn't mean to do that. What I'm hoping to do is just raise awareness that these negotiations are going on. It's my suspicion that the Secretary of State's Office of the Legal Advisor to the Secretary of State, who is supposed to be overseeing these negotiations, has been silent on them because really international agreements are supposed to be negotiated by diplomats, not public health officials, right? And so there's a huge question. And on the page, stopthewho.com, there's a call to action where there are many things that we need to do. Number one is raise awareness, as you're helping me do right here. But we also need to raise the awareness of people in Congress who are generally asleep at the wheel. They probably are completely clueless that this is going on. And for fun, raise the awareness of the people who are running for office in opposition to your current incumbent congressperson and senator, and see if any of them have a freaking clue that our deep state in the Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Global Affairs, is busy selling our country away and giving sovereignty and personal autonomy over to the WHO. Now, if you're cool with that, if you think the dictator general of the WHO should have control of your and everyone else's life on Earth in regards to health, then I guess you'd be all for this. But now is the time to realize that they're doing this in secret. And I'm just trying to shine some light on it.
Yeah. Well, there's a period there where members can submit, amendments or comments. Who does that here in the United States? Like, who would be the point person to put that together?
The list of delegates is on the site.
Okay.
And the main chief delegate is our Health and Human Services Secretary of the department, Javier Becerra.
Okay.
Lois Pace, who is one of the main delegates, she's an executive in the Office of Global Affairs in Health and Human Services. And a gentleman by the name of Colin McIff has been very prominent in the discussions and all that sort of stuff. They had meetings in Geneva. The second meeting of the negotiating body met in July. And I think we talked about that a little bit previously. They were supposed to televise the week-long meetings, or I should say broadcast or live stream and record. And they recorded 2 days of meetings. Then they went completely silent for 2 days. Then they wiped out the fifth day. And on the end of the day, on Thursday of that week, they came back and had a little half-hour segment where they said, well, we're going to be totally transparent and explain to everybody what we just decided in secret.
Yeah.
I mean, that was their new definition of transparency. And what they decided was obvious. I mean, it was not really much of a decision. I don't know what they were hiding. They decided that, yes, they were going to utilize Article 19 of the WHO Convention to negotiate a legally binding agreement. Right now, when the WHO says something, it's a recommendation.
Yeah.
And everybody falls for it thinking that it is, has some authority, but it really, really doesn't. Well, that's what they want to change.
Yeah.
They want all of us to be asleep while our delegations go and, send messages back and forth and meet in Geneva and essentially give away our sovereignty so that the dictator general of the World Hypnosis Organization doesn't need to use hypnosis anymore.
Right.
They would actually have a legally binding international agreement. Now, most people will say, oh, the Senate will never agree to such a thing. And they're probably right. Okay. But the WHO did this in 2003 with something called the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. Yeah. And George Bush, the president at the time, George W. Bush, signed it, and he never bothered to ask the Senate. And so, all I'm saying, people, is now's a really good time to pay attention. I know there's an awful lot of craziness in the world, but this is a hidden part of it. And Dave, thanks for shedding light on it.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
Not gonna see this on the mainstream, that's for sure.
No. We do have this little FBI thing that happened last week, so that's just eating up the news cycle. We could try to put anything else in there right now, and the two sides are warring, against there was something, there wasn't something, and obviously that has a lot to do with the Fourth Amendment, and I am big proponent of the Fourth Amendment, so I am a little concerned about that, as I am with all the other authority and all the other things we are just kind of farming out to either government agencies, James, or in this case, possibly a world governing body, which should really frighten most Americans, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum. I mean, this is some crazy stuff. If you had told me a few years ago we'd be going down this road right now, I would say how and why. And we know the how and the why. We just have to now figure out how to stop what is happening. And again, James, where can people read your great work. I know you're putting up stuff all the time, and you're doing great research. And just tell us your coordinates.
Try to make this one easy. Everything I do is on my Substack, which is jamesroguski.substack.com. But stopthewho.com is easier to remember.
Yeah.
And I encourage everyone to give me a call if you're interested in being involved in stopping this. My phone number is 310-619-3055. Stopthewho.com.
All right, folks, there you have it. James Roguski, always a pleasure to have you, sir. You enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for stopping by, and I know we'll talk again soon.
Thanks.